Hi, welcome everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day, a great evening, a great morning. We're actually just going to cover some really key lighting effects in this video. So this is just kind of to cover what we're going to do. These are the four different lighting scenarios we're going to cover in this video, this tutorial, that basically give you the tools as you're going into a painting, a drawing and a painting in watercolor. You're always going to want to have your lighting figured out. Where is your light coming from? If it's a cloudy day, obviously there might not be that much light as far as seeing shadows and things like that. We cover all the details here of lighting in your paintings so that you kind of have a real good, strong idea walking away from this video on how you're going to set up your paintings for success by knowing your key light sources and where they are in your picture or in your outdoors. If you're outdoors painting plein air and you're in a scene and you're seeing the sunlight, you want to know where that is. You want to make a note on your paper somewhere. So we're going to cover all this information so that you always know your light source, where it's coming from, how it's going to make your painting look so much more exciting, vibrant with light. And in this way, you're going to be happier at the end of the day when your painting is looking much better and more filled with light and excitement. Okay, so we'll be right back. We'll cover again all of these details about lighting in your paintings. Be right back. All right. Hey, welcome everyone. Chris Petrie again here. We're going to be doing some interesting information on light in your paintings. We're going to kind of specifically talk about landscape paintings. A lot of times when we're doing landscape paintings, part of the overall very dominant part of the painting a lot of times is the light in the picture, in the painting. So I would say if we start out, we can just sort of, let's just kind of talk about the first thing I usually like to do. You'll see me do this a lot on my videos. I'll usually make a spotlight insignia like this, and I'll usually physically shade it in. And what this does is it sort of like makes me stop and really focus on the light of the painting, no matter what type of painting it is. But let's talk landscapes right now anyway. So I'll do my light with my light bulb and then a little bit of the light insignia like that with the light. I could do a little larger, a little smaller. Depends on how much room you have on your paper. But I'll just usually, do something like this, and you can do it a little more pronounced if you like. You could do it on your working board if you have like a little extra space around your paper, where you might have like a board with like some kind of white background or, some kind of, I don't know, maybe if you have like a masonite board and, you could put a small piece of tape onto your masonite board or something. If you have a board, you could do that. And maybe you could take a Sharpie. You could take a Sharpie and kind of do the same thing. You could take a Sharpie and make a light insignia like this with some tape if you don't want to mark up your watercolor paper or something like that. So you have some options there, but it is good to have this. So essentially, if you're working outdoors, let's say you're on vacation and you want to sit down with a lawn chair and you want to just have maybe a little watercolor sketch pad with some watercolor paper and your paint set and a brush, just a quick, little sketch you're going to do. You want to put one of these light insignias after you sit down and you look at the light and you say, well, where's the light coming from? It could be coming from various different locations. So then you could then you can get into more of, if the light's coming from maybe you're looking into the light, maybe the sunlight is in front of you. And it might be like early morning or late afternoon. So maybe your light insignia is going to look, it's going to look like this with a spotlight, but you're going to see more of the bulb like this, because the spotlight is actually representing the sunlight or the sun itself shining toward you. Maybe if it's noontime where the sun is high up in the sky, you could make your spotlight like this. Maybe just a small portion of your spotlight is going to be showing where the bulb is here, like that. So maybe you can see different views. And then you can also, you could say, well, if you have the light like this in front of you and you're painting into the light, or if you have a photograph and you're looking at your photograph and you're sort of seeing that the light is behind or in front of you as you're drawing and painting, you could just always take like a vertical, like a fence post, or maybe a street sign, something like this, a street sign like this, something like that. And you would notice that the shadows are coming forward like this. That would be for if you're looking into the light and the light is in front of you, you would see that your cast shadow and shadowing is going to be in front of the object. And then if you have something like this, where the light's like noontime, middle of the day, and it's high in the sky, let's say the sunlight, so we're talking sunlight here. So this is the sunlight. We kind of just make an insignia like this because we can kind of really get the direction of the light real accurate, if that makes sense. So if you're kind of pretending that your sunlight is this spotlight, then you can get real accurate with where that angle of the light is coming from. So here we say it's coming from like middle of the day where the sun is high in the sky, straight up overhead. So now if you have that situation and you have a street sign or a fence post or something like that in your landscape painting, or even a city scene, whatever, or a building, doesn't matter, you'll notice that the shadows are very small, like this. The cast shadow is going to be very, very small. Hardly anything. It could even be as little as this, maybe just a little bit of this with like this for a shadow. For the noontime. So if we say this is noontime, the shadows are going to be very smaller. If we're talking sunset or sunrise or early morning, late afternoon, or if we're painting into the light, the shadows are going to be much longer like this. And you can even use something more simple as just maybe like a fence post like this. And then if the sunlight's coming from this side here, let's say you have your light source here, so your sun is over here, let's say in the morning or in the afternoon, like this, well then you're going to see your shadow over here, like this. Okay, so that kind of just, if you have, like again, a fence post, something like that, and you'll just notice your shadow is, according to this light source here, the light's coming this way, and you have your shadowing coming this way. And it can be subtle too. You could have it, again, your light coming from this, same as this here. And you might be looking at a photograph and you notice that the shadow might be coming more this way on an angle this way. That would mean that the sunlight is coming from the left side this way, but it's further away in the distance, so it's casting the shadow this way. If the sun is closer to us, you know, if the sun is a little bit closer this way towards us, well, maybe the shadow's a little bit this way, like that. So you can just see how the light and shadow can really be a benefit when you're doing some painting in your landscapes, your city scenes, any scene really, but we're just going to key in on some landscape ideas now. But I just wanted to go over that in the beginning, so we'll do some exercises. We'll just do some fun painting exercises and maybe paint some shadows as we go. And maybe we'll do the same thing. Maybe we'll just section off our paper here. So I'll just maybe we'll make a few sections. Maybe we'll go with, maybe we'll do like, maybe 6 sections here, like this, and we'll, okay, so we'll start out, let's pretend it's a landscape painting, and we're going to do a fence post, And then let's practice our lighting scenarios like we were talking about. So let's say the first one is light coming from the left this way. So again, we would put our light insignia up here in our painting, somewhere on our paper, it could be very, very small. Only you can see it maybe if you want, just so you know. I'm drawing it larger here so you can see it on the video, but remember that it doesn't have to be, something large like this. And again, you can take some tape and put it on a piece of tape on your paper, your watercolor paper, so you don't really have a problem with it as far as it maybe once you're done painting, you can just lift off your tape. So let's try one time like that. Actually, we'll do that on the next one. We'll use some tape on our next exercise. But let's just start off with this one here. And again, we're doing, like, let's say a landscape style painting. And let's just do a fence post. So we're just going to make a fence post like this. And this might be any old fence post there on the landscape. And so we have a post there. And the light's coming from the left, coming this way. So we have the light going this way across. And let's say that it's, pretty much just a little bit behind the fence post. So it's not quite right at the side of the fence post. Maybe the sunlight is just a little bit beyond, further in the distance. So we could just take our fence post and make our shadow like this. And that's really fine for what we're going to do. We're just doing some exercises here, nothing too fancy. And I'll take my Prangol 16 watercolor set that we have here. And again, this is an Extreme Beginners series painting and drawing and painting tutorial where we're studying light in our paintings, and particularly the landscape paintings. So we're going to say, let's make a fence post. So we'll use some brown, maybe a little bit of green in that fence post, a little bit of brown, maybe just a touch of black. I'll put that up here, the black, because this black is very strong in the Prangol 16 set. So I just want to make sure I kind of do this, sparingly with the black. But I think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little blue in there too. Like that. Okay, so just a little mixture of some colors. Then I'll just take my brush and set it down here. And I'll just make a shadow side of the post here because the light is coming from the left to the right. So we're going to need a shadow side of the fence post. Then next what I do is I just rinse my brush in my, I have my water container, collapsible water container, which I have with water. And then I take my brush, I rinse off my brush, and then I just use a damp brush and then just smooth out that wash so that you have a light side and a dark side. That's all. Like that. Then I can also infuse in a little more dark on the right side if I'd like. And that can be simply done by just picking up a little more of the darker black with the brown and the blue and the green. And I can just kind of do one more just quick line along the left there, and there we have it. That's a good fence post there. And then if we want to add a little bit of shadow, let's use these same colors. So I'll take my brush, rinse off my brush, I'll pick up these colors and I'll go one more well over in my palette. I just want to pick up these same colors and then use a little bit of purple in that mixture. Just add a little bit of purple as you need to until it looks pretty good. And then maybe a little orange. A little bit of orange and purple. Like that. That looks pretty good. So what I did was I basically transitioned some of the colors that we already used so that we have some similar color as we go to the shadow. And then I added in some purple. And some orange. Like that. And then I can do this. We can get our shadow in. Like that. And then if we want to, we can make it a little darker so we can get a little of that black again. Add a little touch of black up top here. I like to keep that black up here on the top because it is very powerful. If you add too much to one of your mixes, it can really overtake that mix. So remember that, and then you can just make it a little darker here along the first part of the shadow underneath the post. Usually it tends to be The cast shadows are darker at the base where the shadow starts from the subject matter that you're painting, like that. And then it gets lighter as it goes out. So then I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water, and then just carefully smooth that out and just add a little more. Or I just take my brush, dry off the brush after I rinse it off, and you can just lift up a little paint like that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we've kind of accomplished what we wanted to. We wanted to be really, really disciplined and say, if we see a fence post in our landscape painting, or we see a street sign in our painting, if we're doing a street scene, we just want to make sure our shadows are following our light pattern that we've set up right from the start. Before we even start painting the painting, we want to know, where is the sunlight coming from? Is the sunlight to the left when we're looking at the painting, or if you're working from a photograph? Is it coming from the right? And then once we find out where that is, then we put our light insignia on our painting somewhere. Typically, wherever the light's coming from, you would put it on that side of the paper. So if this was our paper right here, so if we just pretend this is our actual painting, this is our paper right here. Pretend this is our paper, like this. Then the first thing we're going to do is, where's the light coming from? Okay, over on the left-hand side of the picture. All right, well, let's make our light insignia somewhere, maybe outside of maybe up here we want to make this light insignia. We don't want to put it on our paper, actually, where we're going to be drawing and painting. But somewhere where you can see it. That's all. You just have to see it. No one else does. You're the artist. You have to recall that. You're just kind of making notes for yourself on your composition, on your paper. When you're doing your compositions and your paintings, you're just making some notes for yourself on your paper, because that's going to kind of like help you to kind of stay on track and stay focused on some of the key things that you're working on with your painting. So light is a real important part of the equation here of doing a good painting. And then, I can always just make a little, since we're just doing a composition here, I can just go across here and maybe make some, like this is some grass or something. So I just take a little bit of green like this, like that. These are just fun exercises to do. Maybe if you just don't want to do a full painting at the time and you're kind of busy, you just want to practice up on some real key fundamental things that you really want to incorporate into your artwork. This is perfect time to do it. So if you're, maybe, like again, if you're busy, you have a hectic schedule, not a problem. You can do some of these quick exercises just so that you get it solidified in your mind that these are some of the things you kind of have to work out right in the beginning of your painting when you're starting, so that you set yourself up for making a much more pleasant, positive, and pleasing looking painting in the end result, because you've kind of have the discipline of knowing, wow, the first thing I have to do when I start my painting is, before I even start drawing and painting, is I have to start figuring out, where's the light coming from? Maybe it's a cloudy day and you don't see much light in the painting. Well, that's another consideration too. That might be where you're not going to have much shadowing in your painting at all. So that's another thing too. Sometimes you're going to leave out shadows, really, because there is not a lot of shadows, like really strong shadows like this, like cast shadows like this in your painting. But this is just one way we can do it, by just doing some fun and free exercises like we're doing here. So I'm hoping you're having a good time. And I always mention, if you haven't subscribed, if this is your first time here on my channel, or if you've been stopping by a few times, please hit the subscribe button on the right-hand side below. All that does is just the next time you open up YouTube, you'll see my newer videos that are coming in. And and if you do that, that's YouTube's way of just saying, if you like my channel, you like my content, you like what we're doing here, the work here with watercolors, drawing and painting in watercolor, well, why not subscribe? All it does is just, again, the next time you open up YouTube, you'll see if there's any new videos I've created. You'll see those in your homepage when you open up YouTube. And that's basically it. It's just a helpful way to keep you in contact with what we're doing here on my channel. And you can also go back in my archives too. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos in my archives, and the easiest way to search my archives is really simple. You just go onto your device, your phone or your home computer, your laptop, your iPad, whatever you have. you go on YouTube and you just type in my name, Chris Petrie, and then you might type in landscapes. That might be your favorite type of painting. So then you type in landscapes, Chris Petrie landscapes, and then all of my landscape paintings will be on that list of videos. So you'll see all of my videos with landscapes. I might have like 50 or 75 landscape paintings over the last 5 or 6 or 8 years that I've done on YouTube. So you'll have a year's worth of working on landscapes if you are going to work maybe one painting every couple of weeks or something like that. So always remember, you can utilize YouTube as a great learning tool. You just type in whatever is your favorite subject matter when you're searching my archives on YouTube, and you'll see that I have literally hundreds and hundreds of videos, teaching videos just like this one, and of the subject matter that you might like more than any other. So you might like flower painting, so you would type in Chris Petrie flowers, and then if you type in flowers, Chris Petrie flowers, you'll see there's literally 100 or more paintings of flowers, and you can go in and start working on all of those. Just a kind of a little tidbit of information, because sometimes realize everyone's busy and we sometimes don't know how to navigate on our electronic devices and YouTube and our applications that we have. There's so much technology these days, we get kind of caught up and we don't really know all of the minor details of it. But that's just one thing you can do if you're interested in maybe one particular subject matter on my channel. If not, you just follow along each week as we go, and you'll be getting a mixture of all my paintings and all of the styles that I do in watercolor, which is all of the subject matter. So I'll do tutorials like this, teaching tutorials that focus in on technique and methods in watercolor, particular things that are themes that are going to help with your painting. And then I'm always doing my standard flower paintings, landscape paintings, city scenes, portrait paintings, still life paintings with fruits and birds and flowers and all kinds of interesting things like this. So stick with me. You're going to have a fun time. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back and we'll keep continuing on this theme of let's know where our light source is in our paintings at all times. And let's practice those here in a fun, loose, stressful kind of environment where we're just having fun doing some fundamental practice work on fundamentals of watercolor. And then when you get into your painting and you're starting to work on a new painting, you'll just snap right into these things and go, oh yeah, that's right. The first thing I have to do is find out where my light is. And you'll go on from there, and we'll do other videos just like this. And we've done other ones too. So you can just look up anything about technique on my channel, Chris Petrie, techniques, splashing techniques, how to splash with your brush, colors of my palette, how I set up my palette, what papers I use, my favorite papers, you name it. Everything's there in my archives. You can always go back into my archives again and check out any of those videos. And let's get started with another exercise in just a second, and we'll be right back. All right, let's continue on. We're going to do another composition on lighting. Let's always remember, we have to know where our light's coming from in our paintings. So we want to make sure that's one of the first considerations we have when we're going to start our drawing and our painting in watercolor is, where is the light in the picture? And again, it might be a cloudy day and you're outside, or you might be looking at a photograph or working from another painting from another watercolor book, or something like that, and you say, wow, there's no real dramatic looking cast shadows that I'm seeing anywhere. It could be one of two things. It could be that and we'll do that next, it could be that the sunlight is straight up in the sky overhead, like noontime, where you don't see much cast shadows like this. Or it could be a cloudy day, overcast, where there's not much cast shadows. So let's start a second composition here, and let's say that now the light is in noontime, or approximately a noontime type lighting outdoors, and we're doing again that theme of landscape paintings, city scenes. We'll take our light insignia and we'll go up here and say this is our light now. Our light source is overhead, up top, noontime. So the light's coming from overhead. We could call this too. You can always make some notes on here, and you can say this is AM, early AM, late PM. This one we can say is going we're going to make pretend this is our watercolor paper here, like that. And this one's going to be Noontime. You can get more fancy with the way you label things. Noon light, like that. Forgive me if I didn't spell that correctly. Oh, it's out of the screen here. Forgive me again. There we go. So now we have noon light, and we have our insignia over the top. Let's use the same colors that we just did, and let's do our quick drawing. And let's do a street scene type of composition. So let's pretend this is a street sign like this. And we have a street sign here, like that. And this might be the street over here, sidewalk. And we're going to make sure that we'll draw in our shadow too. So since the sunlight is straight up overhead, there's maybe only a small amount of shadow like this. Okay, so our shadow work right now is going to be a little more simple. We'll get our brush again. We'll use our Prang Oval 16 stock brush that comes with our Prang Oval 16 set, which is a great set if you're just starting out. And I always mention welcome and thank you for coming by, especially if it's your first time here, if you've never been on my channel before. My Extreme Beginner series is always kind of like we're doing more fundamental beginner style work, compositions, paintings, and some tutorials that might go over some methods and techniques in watercolor that you might not normally pick up on. Even though I might put these in my video sometimes when I'm doing a normal, let's say just a normal painting, drawing and painting, sometimes I put these things in my tutorials, but I don't always go into more detail on these type of things. So that's why I'm going to take the time out now and go over in detail a little more of what these things can be utilized for in your paintings. And these are real important. So if you do these type of exercises on your sheet of watercolor paper here, you can save this and put it in a file, keep it in your studio, or if you work in your kitchen or in your den or maybe your bedroom, wherever you like to do your painting, outdoors, maybe you paint out in the backyard. You have yourself a little plastic bin. You keep all your art supplies in there. Keep them in one location all the time so that you don't have everything spread out all over the place. You know, that's really the worst part about watercolor. I learned that is when I was very young, first starting out in painting, 10, 15 years ago. Sometimes I had all my art supplies all over the place. Some in the basement, some up in my room, some in the kitchen. Next thing you know, when I go to do a painting, I was taking 25 minutes, half an hour trying to find all my art gear. So I always mention, if you can, try to keep all your art supplies in like a bin or in one location. If you can set up one location in your place where you live, where you do your artwork, maybe a small table, and you just keep everything there in one location. This way, when you're ready to do some artwork and you have that time set aside, you're going to do a little bit of practicing or do a painting. You have your half an hour, your hour blocked out, and you're going to do it. You don't have to go searching around for like 45 minutes or a half an hour trying to find all your supplies. Try to keep things really consolidated for yourself with your art supplies. And I used to do that a lot, where I had everything kind of helter-skelter throughout the house. Now I keep everything in one location, and it helps a lot. So again, we're going to maybe do kind of a street scene style composition here. We have a street sign. And what I'll do is we'll maybe change up the colors just a little bit. So we're going to start out with the black up here. That'll be like kind of like our darkening. So we can add some, we can make our washes a little darker with some black to add some darkness to our tonal values. And then here, maybe we're going to do more of maybe of a golden color. Maybe we're going to do some kind of golden brown, kind of like stone and concrete and things like this in the city scenes. So maybe that's our more street scene style colors there. And then here we're going to have our shadow color. So we'll take some of our brown and yellow and some orange. We'll put some orange in over here too. I'll take a little bit of water, put that into the orange there, and we'll put some orange in here. Then we'll add our purple here for our shadowing. So that'll be our shadow. This will be our color for our work that we're going to do here now. So we'll do the street sign here. Okay, so we have our street sign like so. And then we notice that, wow, the light is coming straight up overhead. So we're not going to see any long shadows, cast shadows like this. We're going to see just a small shadow because the light's directly overhead. And that we can just take some of that black and some of the purple. And we make our shadow like that. We could pick up a little more of that black. And that should be good. And then we can take some of our mixture here, which could be our concrete, stone, could be some fancy tiles or something. And we just do some color around. And I wouldn't work into the shadow. I would go around the shadow, leave a little bit of white paper there. And you can always, once it dries, you can touch up and go up closer to the, like that. Once it starts to dry a little, you can go and have that like that. Good, good. A little bit of splashing. I just take a little bit of the paint and just splash. That can be some cement. Okay, we're going to let that dry a little bit, but that's really what we're looking at there, a street sign. And since the light's coming from this way, actually it's coming straight up overhead. So and that's good. And then maybe sometimes if you could always lift up a little bit of paint like that. If something goes over a little bit, you can get a little more black up here to get that shadow a little darker if you want. A little bit of purple, black and purple. All right, so that could be our noontime shadowing, where it's just a little bit. It might look a little different than that too if you're looking at a picture or something like that, or a photograph, but for the most part that could be where the shadows are very high in the sky, noontime. And if that ever happens where your sign washes get out of control, you can make the sign larger. Always remember, you can paint things. You can correct things by painting over things, making things a little bit larger, a little smaller, whatever. But that is the next exercise, noontime light, where the light's directly over top of our subject matter. This happens to be a street scene. You know, we might have a sidewalk here. Some sidewalk. Just some fun things to do. Some fun exercises as we work on techniques and methods in watercolor. Some of the finer things that maybe sometimes when we're doing, especially when I'm producing videos, it's hard for me to cover every detail as I'm going because we only have so much time to work together. But now's the perfect time when I can get something like this done, a quick video, and you'll save this in your, you know, there's, on YouTube you can create files. You can create, maybe I'll do a video on that in the near term. You could also look that up, how to create files on YouTube, your personal files. You could just, there's already probably thousands upon thousands of people that have done videos on YouTube that show you how you can save videos to files. You can create your own filing system on YouTube. YouTube gives you the advantage of setting up some files. You might say Chris Petrie. You can make a folder called Chris Petrie in YouTube, and then you can take your favorite videos from my channel and put them into your folder. So you might say, oh, I'm going to take all Chris's like technique-y type videos and put them in the Chris Petrie folder that I created on YouTube. So YouTube is a great organizational application and platform on the internet that we use all the time. I go to YouTube for everything from art to how to fix things around the house, cooking, how to cook I want to learn how to make a nice seafood and pasta dish or something like that. I go on YouTube and search out, recipes and things like that. YouTube's the best, isn't it? All right, well, it's great. So if you can make some folders for yourself, you can actually get a little more organized if you want. It's up to you. Some of you I already know have this going on. Many of you, I know quite a few of you have folders and you do save all these things. But for some of you that haven't done that, maybe you're just starting out on YouTube. Maybe you've only been on YouTube for a year or something like that, and you haven't researched all these things. But again, you can create folders in YouTube and save videos like this if you want your favorite videos from any artist that you might follow, and of course myself. And you can just type in how to create folders on YouTube, and then you can check out those videos, and they'll show you how to do it, and you can set it up, and it's real simple. It takes about maybe 10-15 minutes, and that's it. All right, so we're going to do a few more compositions here. We're going to talk about different light. Now, we did the noontime light. We started out with the early morning light or the late afternoon light with the long cast shadows. Here we're talking about noontime light, where the sunlight's straight up overhead in the sky. We don't have very much long shadows. We have shorter shadows like that, which are interesting. And when you're looking at photographs and you're going to maybe do a painting from a photograph, you can check out your photograph first and say, what kind of light do I want to see in my painting? Well, then you would just look for a painting that has the shadow patterns that you like. So you can actually look at photographs, study the photograph. If you're going to paint from a photograph online, if you go on Google and do a Google search, and you're going to Google search landscape paintings, well, then you're going to look at those paintings or those photographs, whatever you want to work from, a painting or a photograph, and you'll just see the light patterns. You'll look for the cast shadows on the trees and the fence posts and whatever it is that's, you can see in the painting or photograph, and you can kind of say, yeah, I want to work with some noontime style shadows, or, I want to work with some early morning or late afternoon shadows, those long cast shadows. Those can look really beautiful in a painting. Okay, all right, so we're going to come back in just a second. We'll get started with another few light scenarios for our paintings, and we'll be back in just a second. All right, let's pick back up again. Maybe I'll take some tape here. We'll kind of just use that technique we talked about. You can actually put some tape on your paper like this, and then put your maybe in some Sharpie marker. We can put our light source. Now this one we're going to use backlighting, which means the light's coming from behind us. So if the light's coming from behind us, you can just basically draw a circle, and that would be our spotlight. Like that. And then of course we don't see any light bulb at all, so that is the indication that there's no light bulb. We don't see a light bulb in our insignia, which means the light's coming from behind us. So this is representing seeing the spotlight from behind, and the light shining forward behind us. So if we're sitting in a chair, the light's coming from behind us. So the sunlight might be setting behind us or in midday behind us, shining forward. So that means that the shadows are going to be forward of our objects. So again, if we're talking, let's say we're doing a landscape, again, we can do maybe another fence post, just like this. And we have maybe there's a field there. And this might be our paper. Like this, that's our paper. Okay, and then since the light is coming from behind us, our shadow is going this way. So now we can take our paint, and I like to make sure that I keep the palette fresh. I like to just clean up the paints that we've been using for a little bit so they don't get too muddy. And we still get a pleasant looking wash as we're working. And again, we're going to do some landscape maybe colors, so we'll use some brown and some orange, brown, orange, some green, maybe some blue. We'll do a touch of black up here if we want to darken some things up. And I usually keep a tissue so I can dry off some paint, water or paint if I want to on my tissue as I go, as I work. So let's do this. The light's coming from behind us, so we're going to see that's going to be our post, our fence post here. And then we're going to go with some purple. So we're going to start to get our shadow color started, so we'll get some purple here, like that. And I'll put a touch of brown and purple and orange, just like that. And we'll make our shadow, our cast shadow like this. Like this. Then what we can do is we can maybe start mixing in some grass colors. Why not? So we'll use these two greens. We have a cool green and a warm green. So this is like an olivey green here. An olivey green there. Mix a little bit of brown in there and you get like an olive color. And this is more of a cooler green, almost like a viridian green. Add some orange to both of those and quite a pleasant green. And then we can just kind of go across our picture. And then we're just going to pretend this is again a landscape. We have some grass here. And then I'm very careful to paint around here. You can blend that in a little bit. I would wait till it dries though. I would wait till it dries 100% before you paint in the grass. I'm going to take a little bit of aggressive technique here and just go right in right away and paint these washes. But better off to let it dry a little bit, the post and the shadow. But if you think you can do it and the paper's drying pretty fast, the washes are drying pretty fast, you can get in there pretty quickly as you're working. Okay, so you have some grass. Again, it's a landscape style painting. You can pick up some more colors, just do a couple of splashes here and there. You can take those splashes and blend in the colors if you want. Like that. You can pick up a little more of the shadow colors. Like that. And that pretty much is looking at our backlighting, which is where the light's coming from behind us if we're seated painting this painting. Perhaps we're painting a fence post here in our landscape painting and we're wondering where the shadow's coming from. The light's behind us and we see the shadow going across the painting, forward of the subject matter, the fence post in this case. And there we have it. So that's another exercise we can do just to kind of practice up on our light source, practicing our insignias so that we have our insignias worked out. And let's do one more. Let's do a light coming from the right side across the picture this way. So again, we'll get started. We'll make our we'll do our rectangle. And then if we want to, we can use just a touch of some artist tape or drafting tape. And we can put it over here on the upper right-hand side. We can take our Sharpie and we can make our light insignia like this. Our light bulb like that. And there we have our light coming from the right, shining across our painting this way. And again, we can make some backdrop here. Again, perhaps this is a city scene. And maybe we have a, let's see now. Maybe we'll make a figure. So we'll just start with a head. Remember, we do our carrot shape, like so. So we kind of do a carrot shape like this. And the light's coming from this way, so we're going to make our shadow this way. And there we go. Now if you start out with this carrot shape when you're doing your figures, this is the perfect way to start out your figure. If you're just looking to get a quick figure into your watercolor painting on a street scene or a landscape scene, or any scene for that matter. So you get in just a basic carrot shape with a circle on top or an oval on top like that. And I'll show you how we develop a figure from just using that simple shape to start with. So again, we're doing a street scene, perhaps. And let's start working our colors. So here I'm going to use the same colors, I think. Brown, green, a little bit of blue, a little bit of black. Let's make our figure darker on the left, like this, darker over here on this side. And then once we rinse off our brush, we dry off a little bit of the water. And then we do a damp brush on the right side. And therefore we have the light and shadow effect right away. Then we can go in and get some orange and red and yellow. So some yellow, brown, orange, red, orange, a little bit of brown. And we're going to make a flesh tone. And we'll do our flesh tone up here like that. So we have some flesh tone here, like that. Maybe for some hands over here. Okay, so we have a little bit of flesh tones for the hands. Like so. And let's get right in with the shadow. Let's just add some purple. Purple. Pick up some green. A little more green in that. I think would look good. A little bit of red. And we'll tie our shadow right in like this. Darker over here. And then we want to make it a little bit lighter going over to the left. Darker there. And lighter there. We can get some more black over here, just if we want to add a little darker dark over here on the left side of the figure. That's the shadow side. And then maybe we can do a little more detailing here. Maybe there's a briefcase over here, or a bag, shopping bag. And then maybe we can do some blue mixed in with the purple. Maybe we'll just do a little bit of a wash there. Maybe we'll just do a little bit of a sky wash back here. And I'll be very careful to paint around the figure. You can always fill in later around the tape. I would just remember to leave some of this blue wash in your palette. Don't wipe that up. Leave that in there. So this way when you go back later to fill in over here, you can just lift up your light insignia and put some wash in there. Or you could do it right now, like this. That's all. There we go. And we had some fun doing a figure here. And again, you can always remember figures are absolutely fun. You can darken them up over here on this side. You can make some directional lines here, a little bit of, just a tiny bit of shadow. All right, so we kind of had a fun time here creating our figure with our shadow pattern. And again, the light is coming from the right across this way, and there's our cast shadow here, like that. And if you were to paint another figure, and you could use any one of these different shadow patterns that you might like to use. So you could use a noontime light. And this again, this lighting pattern is basically either early AM or late PM. Or afternoon, you could say. But this is really the key fundamentals to kind of seeing your light in your paintings, how you're going to set up your painting when you first start, when you're drawing and starting your painting portion of your painting. You kind of want to just have these kind of worked out. Where's your light coming from? And you can use these insignias really as a fun way to kind of keep track of that light at all times. And again, we can just do a simple, one more time, we can just say that we make our light, we just basically make a spotlight with a light bulb, and then our rays of light, like that. Or if it's noontime, or again, afternoon, late afternoon or early morning. Over here, coming from the right. Or if perhaps it's backlighting, you can just draw your light insignia like this. Like that, solid. And as you can see, you do not see the bulb in this insignia here for your light, and that means the light is facing forward from where your vantage point is. So these are like your basic light insignias that you can use. You put them strategically located in your paintings. Of course, if the light's coming from the right, you would put your light insignia up on the right or up on the left. If it's coming from the left, straight overhead, you would put it right over here in your composition somewhere. Again, you can put it on a piece of tape if you want, or you can find some room on the paper or on your working surface that you're using. And these are just the fun ways that you can kind of really have a strong discipline for making sure that you kind of keep track of that light source. Where's the light coming from? The sunlight. Maybe it's a light bulb in a room or a spotlight in a room, or maybe it's a cloudy day and you don't even have any shadowing. So in this case, if it was a cloudy day and you don't see any cast shadows in your paintings, you might just put a cloudy insignia like this. You might just put that cloudy cloud shape like that in somewhere on your paper. So if you have your paper and you're working on your paper, here's your paper, here's your board, or maybe you want to put it on your paper somewhere there. If you have your tape, maybe you have tape around your board. Maybe you have some tape around your board and you can squeeze that little cloud shape in there. Then you know it's a cloudy day. No, there's really no cast shadows. So these are all fun things you can do. I hope you'll incorporate these into your work, your artwork. Thanks again for coming by, sharing some time here, working with our basic fundamentals of watercolor, the methods and techniques that you can use in watercolor to kind of get you started in the right direction as far as your light sources in your paintings, no matter what style painting you're doing. Could be, again, landscapes, cityscapes, seascapes, portrait paintings. It could be you're doing some still life paintings with flowers and fruits and vegetables and teacups, anything that you're doing. If you always kind of find the first little 5 or 10 minutes when you're starting, find out where your light source is and identify it. And then sometimes too, you might be in a room where there's light coming from every which direction. And in that case, you just decide for yourself, I'm going to pick one light source that I feel looks the strongest in the picture, and then sort of paint in that design parameter. So if you can imagine, if you see light coming from a few different directions, you would just take the light that you feel is the best for you as you're doing the drawing and the painting. So you would say, there's a few different light sources coming into my picture from the indoor lighting that I'm seeing here. Maybe I'm doing some flowers on a table and I'm creating a painting and there's flowers on a table all set up with fruits and some teacups and different things, and you're doing like a still life painting. You can just take the light that you feel is the most pleasant for you, that you like to work with, and you might say, I like working with the light coming from the left across my painting this way so that I get my shadows going to the right. So you just do that. You even though you see different shadows going different ways, just kind of like you ignore the other shadows and light patterns, and you just pick one that you want to go with, and then that's where you make your insignia, and you say, all right, as I'm drawing and painting this, I'm always going to be focusing on my light insignia up on the corner of my paper or my working board, on my easel, whatever it is you're working on. And if you have that insignia, then you can just use that for your guide. You don't have to get distracted by other light and shadow that you might see in a picture, because sometimes light can do strange things. It can bounce around. And again, especially if you're doing some indoor painting, or even if you're sometimes in a different situation where the light might be bouncing around, it might be coming, there might be things that are throwing shadows in different directions. Just remember, you're in control. As long as you have your light insignias on your painting as you're going, then you just use that as your guide, and this way you won't kind of get fouled up and not have a confusion on where that light source is. I hope this is a good learning tool for everybody. I hope you'll save this video if you can, or come back to it when you need to, and we'll see you on the next video. Again, thanks for watching. Hope everyone has a pleasant day, a pleasant evening, a pleasant morning, and happy painting. Enjoy the watercolor journey. It's fun, and we'll be back soon, just before you know it.